Have you ever heard the word kafir? Today, it's often thrown around as a loaded, even aggressive term. But what if I told you that its original meaning had nothing to do with faith and everything to do with farming? Stick around because we're about to peel back thousands of years of history to uncover the incredible journey of this single word. It's a story that will change the way you see it forever. To really get to the heart of it, we need to travel back in time, way back, before Islam, before Christianity, even before many of the ancient texts we know today. We're heading to the era of Proto-Semitic, the ancestor of languages like Arabic, Hebrew, and Aramaic, spoken over 4,500 years ago. In this ancient world, a three-letter root existed. Kfir, its meaning was simple and physical: to cover or to smear. Imagine someone covering a pot with a lid or smearing clay on a wall. That was it. No judgment, no theology, just a plain, everyday action. Now let's fast forward a bit to the time of Biblical Hebrew. Around the first millennium BCE, the root Kfir is still there, but it's starting to evolve. It still means to cover, but now it's taking on a spiritual dimension. Think of the Hebrew word kippur, as in Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. The idea is covering sins, as if you're blotting them out to seek forgiveness. The root is also used to mean ransom, the price paid to cover a debt or a crime. So the meaning is shifting from a physical act to a spiritual or legal concept of covering a transgression. It's a significant step, but we're still not at the modern understanding of kafir. Let's jump over to the Arabian Peninsula. In the centuries just before the advent of Islam, the Arabic language is flourishing. And the same root, kafir, is in common use. And here's where it gets really interesting. One of the most common meanings for the word kafir in pre-Islamic poetry and speech was a farmer. Why? Because a farmer covers the seeds with soil. It was a neutral, descriptive term. You could point to a man planting his crops and say, "There is a kafir," and it simply meant, there is a farmer. The root also carried a sense of covering a kindness or a favor, which led to the meaning of being ungrateful. You covered up the good someone did for you. So we have two main meanings: the farmer who covers seeds and the ungrateful person who covers a good deed. Notice it's still not primarily about religious belief. Everything changes in the 7th century CE with the revelation of the Qur'an. This is the pivotal moment where the word kafir is infused with its profound theological meaning. The Qur'an takes that existing idea of covering and elevates it to a spiritual plane. A kafir is now someone who intentionally covers the truth of God's message. It's not just about simple disbelief. The Qur'an often describes it as a conscious rejection or concealment of a truth that has been made clear. It's an act of deep ingratitude, kafir, towards the ultimate giver, God. So that old meaning of ungrateful gets supercharged. A kafir isn't just someone who hasn't heard the message. The term is often applied to those who actively oppose it, who know the truth but choose to hide it from themselves and others. So you can see the progression, from a physical covering to covering sign, to a farmer covering seeds, and finally to one who covers spiritual truth. The Qur'anic meaning is specific and contextual. It describes an active state of rejection, not simply a person belonging to a different faith. It's a description of a spiritual posture. For example, the Qur'an makes a clear distinction between a kafir and the people of the book, Jews and Christians, who are seen as recipients of earlier revelations. The relationship is complex, not a simple binary of believer versus kafir. However, as Islamic civilization expanded and empires were built, the term began to take on a legal and political dimension. In the context of Islamic law, or fiqh, jurists needed to create categories for governance. The world was often divided into Dar al-Islam, the abode of Islam, and Dar al-Harb, the abode of war. In this framework, kafir became a legal status for non-Muslim subjects or external enemies. It shifted from being a purely theological description of a person's inner state of rejection to a practical label for political and legal classification. This is a crucial shift. A term that described a heart that covers truth was now being used as a bureaucratic label for entire populations. It's during this period that the word began to harden, losing some of its original Quranic nuance in everyday political discourse. Now, let's bring it to the modern era. In the last couple of centuries, Especially with the rise of colonialism, political ideologies, and global conflicts, the term kafir has been distorted even further. Extremist groups have seized upon it, stripping it of all its historical and theological context. They've turned it into a weapon, a blunt instrument to justify hatred and violence against anyone who doesn't subscribe to their narrow, twisted ideology, including other Muslims. They use it as a blanket term for the other, ignoring the rich, complex history we've just explored. This modern weaponized usage is a profound departure from its origins. It's a tragic distortion that turns a deeply spiritual concept into a political slur. This brings us to the critical question for today. In a world of diverse faiths and beliefs, how do we navigate these terms? Many Muslim scholars and thinkers are calling for a return to the original, more nuanced Qur'anic understanding and for a careful re-evaluation of its use. They argue that in a pluralistic society, using kafir as a label for our neighbors, be they Christian, Jewish, Hindu, or atheist, is counterproductive and contrary to the core Islamic values of respect and compassion. The challenge is to rescue sacred vocabulary from the hands of extremists and politicians. It's about discussing faith and difference in a way that builds bridges, not walls. The journey of this one word, from farmer to theological concept to political weapon, teaches us a powerful lesson about how language evolves and how easily it can be corrupted. So the next time you hear the word kafir, remember its long and complicated story. It began with the simple act of covering, evolved into a profound spiritual concept, was adapted for legal systems, and was later hijacked for political violence. Understanding this journey doesn't just give us a history lesson. It gives us the wisdom to use our words more carefully and to challenge those who misuse them to spread division. The story of Kafir is a reminder that context is everything. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If you found this exploration helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the hidden histories behind the words we use every day. See you next time.